immediately begins educational and organizational development work to align the system and structure of the organization towards the win-win paradigm. We involve people at a grassroots, cooperative, grassroots levels to develop the kinds of system that would motivate them. We also encourage them to their individual tailored performance agreement. At the next rally 1 year later, there were over 1,000 sales associate present. About 800 of them receive awards. There were a few individual winners based on comparisons, but the programs primarily focus on pupil achievement, self-selected performance objective, and on group achieving team objective. There was no need to bring in the high school bands to artificially contrive the fanfare, the cheerleading, the psych up. There was tremendous natural interest and excitement because people could share in each other's happiness, and teams of sales associates could experience rewards together, including a vacation trip for the entire office. The remarkable thing was that almost all of 800s who received the reward that were had produced as much as person in terms of volume and profit as the previous years later. The spirit of enormous human the spirit of win-win had significantly increased the number of golden eggs and had feed the goose as well as releasing enormous human energy and talent. The resulting energy the resulting synergy was astounding to almost everyone involved. Competing has its place in the marketplace or against last year performance, perhaps even against another office or individual. Wherever there is no particular interdependence, no need to cooperate, but cooperation in the workplace is as important to free enterprises as competition in the marketplace. The spirit of win-win cannot survive in the environment of competition and contest. For win-win to work, the system has to support it, the training system, the planning system, the communication system, the budgeting system, the information system, the compensation system, all have to be based on the principles of win-win. I did some consulting for another company that wanted training for their pupil in human relation. The underlying assumptions was that the problem was the pupil. The president said, go into any store you want and see how they treat you. They just order taker. They don't understand how to get close to the customer. They don't know the product and they don't have the knowledge and the skills in the sales process necessary to create a marriage between the product and the need. So I went to the various stores and he was right, but that still didn't answer the question in my mind what caused the attitude. Look, we are on top of the problem. The president said we have department heads out there setting a great example. We told them their job is to trill two-third sailing and one-third management, and they are out sailing everybody. We just want you to provide some training for the sales people. Those words raise a red flag. Let's get some more, that I said. He didn't like it. He knew what the problem was and he wanted to get on with training. But I persisted, and within 2 days we uncovered the real problem. Because of the job definition and compensation system, the manager were creaming. They stand behind the cash registered and cream all the business during the slow times. Half the time in retail is slow and other half is frantic. So the managers would give all the dirty jobs, inventory control, stock work and cleaning to the salespeople, and they would stand behind the register and cream. That's why the department heads were top in sales. So we changed one system, the compensation system, and the problem was corrected overnight. We set up a system whereby the manager only made money when their salespeople made money. We overlapped the needs and goals of the managers with the needs and goals of the salespeople, and the need for human relation training suddenly disappeared. The key was developing a true win-win reward system. In another instance, I work with a manager in a company that required formal performance evaluation. He was frustrated over evaluation rating he had given a particular manager. He deserved a 3. He said, but I had to give him a 1, which meant superior promotable. What did you give him a 1 for? I asked. He gets to do thing he deserve a 3. It's the way he gets them. He neglect people, he runs over them, he troublemaker. It sounds like he's totally focused on P, on production, and that's what he's being rewarded for. But what would happen if you talk with him about the problem, if you help him understand the importance of PC? He said he had done so with no effect. Then what if you set up a win-win contract with him where you both agreed that two-thirds of his compensation would come from P, from numbers, and other one-third would come from PC, how other people perceive him, what kind of leader, pupil builder, team builder he is. Now that would get his attention, he replied. So often the problem is in the system, not in the pupil. If you put good people in the bad system, you get bad result. You have to water the flowers you want to grow. As people really learn to think when they can set up the system to create and reinforce it, they can transform unnecessarily competitive situation to cooperate ones, and can powerfully impact their effectiveness by building both P and PC. In business, executive can align their system to create teams of highly productive people working together to compete against the external standard of performance. In education, teachers can set up grading systems based on an individual performance in the context of agreed upon criteria, and can encourage a student to cooperate in productive ways to help each other learn and achieve. In families, parents can shift the focus from competition with each other to corporation. In activities such as bowling, for example, they can keep a family score and try to beat a previous one. They can set up home responsibilities with win-win agreement that eliminate constant nagging and enable parents to do the things only they do. A friend once shared with me a cartoon he's seen of two children talking to each other. If mommy doesn't get us up soon, one was saying, we are going to be late for school. These words brought forcibly to his attention the nature of the problem created when families are not organized on a responsible win win basis. Win win puts the responsibility on the individual for accomplishing specified results within clear guidance and available resources. It makes a pupil accountable to perform, evaluate the result, and provides consequences as a natural result of performance. And win-win system creates the environment which support and reinforce the win-win agreement process. There's no way to achieve win-win ends with win-lose or lose-win-wins. You can say you are going to think win-win whether you like it or not. So the question becomes how to arrive at a win-win solution. Roger Fisher and William Ury, two Harvard law professors, have done some outstanding work in what they call the principles approach versus the positional approach to bargaining in their tremendous, useful, and insightful book, Getting to Yes. Although the words win win are not used, the spirit and underlying philosophy of the book are in harmony with the win win approach. They suggest that the essence of principles negotiation is to separate the person from the problem, to focus on interest and not on position, to invent option for mutual gain, and to insist on objective criteria, some external standard or principles that both parties can buy into. In my own work with various people and organizations seeking win-win solution, I suggest that they become involved in the following four-step process. First, see the problem from the other point of view, really seek to understand and give expression to the needs and concerns of the other party as well as the better than they can themselves. Second, identify the key issues and concern, not position involved. Third, determine the results would constitute a fully acceptable solution. And fourth, identify possible new option to achieve their result. Habit 5 and 6 deals directly with two of the elements of this process, and we will go into those in depth in the next two chapters. But at this juncture, let me point out the highly interrelated nature of the process of win-win with essence of win-win itself. You can only achieve win-win solution with win-win process. The and the means are the same. Win-win is not a personality technique, it is a total paradigm of human interaction. It comes from a character of integrity, maturity, and the abundance mentality. It grows out of high trust relationship. It embodied in agreement that effectively clarify and manage expectation as well as accomplishment. It thrives in supportive system and in it is achieved through the process we can now prepare to more fully examine in habit 5 and 6 application suggestions. Think about an upcoming integrations wherein you will be attempting to reach an agreement or negotiate a solution comment to maintain a balance between courage and consideration. Point number 2, make a list of obstacles that keeps you from applying the win-win paradigm more frequently. Determine that could be done within your circle of influence to eliminate some of those obstacles. Option number 3, select a specific relationships where you would like to develop a win-win agreement. Try to put yourself in the person place and write down explicitly how you think that person sees the solution, then list from your own perspective what results would constitute a win for you. Approach the other person and ask if he or she would be willing to communicate until you reach a point of agreement and mutually beneficial solution. Point number 4, identify three key relationship in your life. Give some indication of what you feel the balance is in each of the emotional bank account. Write down some specific ways you could make deposit in each account. Point number 5, deeply consider your own scripting. Is it win lose? How does that scripting affect your interaction with other people? Can you identify the main source of that script? Determine whether or not those scripts serve well in your current reality. Option number 6, try to identify a model of win-win thinking whose even in hard situation really seek mutual benefit. Determine how to more closely watch and learn from this person's example. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Principle empathic communication. The heart has its reason, which reason knows not of. Pascal. Suppose you've been having trouble with your eyes and you're decided to go to optometrist for help. After briefly listening to your complaint, he takes off his glass and handle them to you. Put these on, he say. I've worn this pair of glasses for 10 years now, and they really help me. I have an extra pair at home. You can wear these. So you put them on, but it only makes the problem worse. That this is terrible, you claim. I can't see a thing. Well, what's wrong? He asks. They work great for me. Try harder. I am trying, you insisted. Everything is blur. Well, what's the matter with you? Think positively. Okay, I positively can't see a thing. Boy, you are ungrateful, he chides. And after all I've done to help you, what are your chances you go back to that optometrist the next time you need help? Not very good, I would imagine. You don't have much confidence in someone who doesn't diagnose before he or she prescribe. But how often do you diagnose before we prescribe in communication? Come on, honey, tell me how you feel. I know it's hard, but I'll try to understand. Oh, I don't know, mom. You think it was stupid? Of course it wasn't. You can tell me, honey, no one cares for you as much as I do. I'm only interested in your welfare. What's making you so unhappy? Oh, I don't know. Come on, honey. What is it? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't like school anymore. Well, what? What? You respond incredulously. What do you mean you don't like school? And after all the sacrifices you made for your education, education is the foundation of your future. If you apply yourself like your older sister does, you do better and then you like the school. Time and time again, you've told you to settle down. You got the ability, but you just don't apply yourself. Try harder, get a positive attitude about it. Pause. Now go ahead, tell me how you feel. You have such a tendency to rush in to fix things up with good advice, but we often fail to take time to diagnose, to really deeply understand the problem first. If I were to summarize in one sentence the single most important principle I have learned in the field of interpersonal relation, it would be this: seek first, understand, seek first to understand, then to be understood. This principle is the key to effective interpersonal communication, character, and communication. Right now, you're reading a book I've written. Reading and writing are both forms of communication. So are speaking and listening. In fact, those are the four basic types of communication, and think of all the hours you spend doing at least one of those four things. The ability to do them well is absolutely critical to your effectiveness. Communication is the most important skills in life. We spend most of our waking hours communicating. By consider these, you have spent years learning how to read and write, years learning how to speak. But what about listening? What training or education have you had that enables you to listen so that you really deeply understand another human being from the individual own frame of reference? Comparatively, few people have had any training in listening at all, and for the most part, their training has been in the personality ethic of technique truncate from the character based and the relationship based, absolutely vital to authentic understanding of another person. If you want to interact effectively with me, to influence me, your spouse, your child, your neighbor, your boss, your coworker, your friend, you first need to understand me. Are you and you can't do that tech with technique alone. If I sense you are using some technique, I sense duplicity, manipulation. I wonder why you are doing it, what your motives are, and I don't feel safe enough to open myself up to you. The real key to your influence with me is your example, your actual conduct. Your example flows naturally out of your character, of the kind of person you truly are, and what others say you are, or what you may want me to think you are. It is evident how actually experience I actually experience you. Your character is constantly radiating, communicating from it. In the long run, I came to instinctively trust or distrust you and your efforts with me. If your life runs hot and cold, if you are both caustic and kind, and above all, if your private performance doesn't score with your public performance, it's very hard for me to open up with you then as much as I may want and even need to receive your love and influence. I don't feel safe enough to expose my opinions and experience and my tender feeling. Who knows what will happen? But unless I open up with you, unless you understand me and my unique situation and feelings, you won't know how to advise or counsel me. What you say is good and fine, but it doesn't quite pardon to me. You may say you care about and appreciate me. I dis- desperately wants to believe that, but how can you appreciate me when you don't even understand me? All I have are your words, and I can't trust words. I am too angry and defensive, perhaps too guilty and afraid to be influenced even through a side. I know I need what you could tell me unless you are influenced by my uniqueness. I am not going to be influenced by your advice. So, if you want to be really effective in the habit of interpersonal communication, you cannot do it with technique alone. You have to build the skill of empathic listening on a base of character that inspire openness and trust. You can. And you have to build an emotional bank account that creates a commerce between herds. Empath- Empathic listening. Seek first to understand involve a very deep shift in paradigm. We typically seek first to be understood. Most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. They either speaking or preparing to speak. They are filtering everything through their own paradigm, reading their autobiography into other people's life. Oh, I know exactly how you feel. I went through the very same thing. Let me tell you about my experience. They are constantly projecting their own home movies onto other people's behavior. They prescribe their own glasses for everyone with whom they interact. If they have a problem with someone, a son, a daughter, or spouse, an employee, their attitude is that person just don't understand. A father once told me I can understand my kid. He just won't listen to me at all. Let me restate what you just said. I replied, you don't understand your son because he won't listen to you. That's right, he replied. Let me try again. I said, you don't understand your son because he won't listen to you. That's what I said, he impatiently replied. I thought that to understand another person, you need to listen to him. I suggested. Oh, he said. There was a long pause. Oh, he said again as the light began to dawn. Oh, yeah, but. I do understand him. I know what he's going through. I went through the same thing myself. I guess what I don't understand is why he won't listen to me. This man didn't have the vaguest idea of what was really going on inside his boy's head. He looked into his own head and through he saw the world, including his boy. That's the case with so many of us. We filled with our own rightness, our own autobiography. We want to be understood. Our conversation become collective monologues, and we never really understand what's going on inside another human being. When another person speaks, we really listen at one of four levels. We may be ignoring another person, not really listening at all. We may practice pretending, yeah, oh yeah, right. We may practice selective listening, hearing only certain parts of the constant chatter of a preschool child, or we may even practice attentive listening, paying attention, and focusing energy on the words that are being said. But very few of us ever practice the fifth level, the highest form of listening, empathetic listening. When I say empathetic listening, I am not referring to the technique of active listening or reflective listening, which basically involves mimicking what another person say. What kind of listening is skill based, truncate from character and relationship, and often insult those listen to in such a way. It is also essential autobiographical. If you practice those techniques, you may not project your autobiography in the actual interaction, but your motive in listening is autobiographical. You listen with reflective skills, but you listen with intent to apply, to control, to manipulate. When I say empathetic listening, I mean listening with intent to understand. I mean seeking first to understand, to really understand. It's an entirely different paradigms. Empathetic from empathy. Listening gets inside another person's frame of reference. You look out through it. You see the world the way they see the world. You understand their paradigms. You understand how they feel. Empathetic is not a sympathy. Sympathy is a form of agreement, a form of judgment, and it is sometimes the more appropriate emotion than the response. But people often feed on sympathy. It makes them dependent. The essence of empathic listening is not that you agree with someone, it's that you fully deeply understood that person's emotionally as well as intellectually. Empathetic listening involves much more than registering, reflecting, or even understanding the words that are said. Communicates expert estimate, in fact, that only 10% of our communication is represented by the words we say, another 30% is represented by our sound, and 60% by our body language. In empathetic listening, you listen with your ears, but you also and more importantly listen with your eyes and with your heart. You listen for feeling, for meaning, you listen for behavior. You use your right brain. You use your right brain as well as your left. You sense, you intuit, you feel. Empathetic listening is so powerful because it gives you accurate data to work with instead of projecting your own autobiography and assuming thought, feeling, motive, and interpretation. You're dealing with the reality inside another person had and heard. You're listening to understand. You focus on receiving the deep communication of another human soul.